Welcome to Destination LA. I'm Kenny Barnwell and we are here at the Brea Tar Pits. In the heart of the Miracle Mile district of Los Angeles sits this 23.5-acre historic plot of land. This place is as old as it gets, dating back to millions of years. We're gonna walk through and see what makes this destination worth the visit. When you first walk in from the Wilshire Boulevard entrance, you see the iconic mammoths caught in the tar, and the most notable of the pits here, the lake pit. You know what I love about the lake pit here is, like, when you think the Brea Tar Pits, you think the lake pit. You've got the mammoths depicting of what life would have been like thousands of years ago for these ginormous animals getting stuck in the tar and in the asphalt here. But the first confirmed fossil to be found in all of the tar pits was actually here in the lake pit, and it was actually a saber-toothed cat. But still, seeing these mammoths like this really shows you what life would have been like. Pretty cool. Well, not so cool for them. Interesting. So what it says here is that the lake is actually a pit that's left over from asphalt mining operations in the late 1800s, and that since then, rainwater and groundwater has collected on top, creating this small lake. The first thing that I'm noticing when I first kind of walked up was like this smell, this rotten egg smell. And what it says here is that it's hydrogen sulfide, which is actually a byproduct of the natural breakdown of the hydrocarbon molecules in the crude oil itself. And the actual goo, which we're calling tar, is not actually tar, it's asphalt, which is like a low-grade crude oil. The bubbles that you're seeing is actually methane gas, because underneath here, about 1,000 feet down apparently, is a massive oil field. And that oil field creates the methane, and then with the heat and the pressure, causes it to bubble up in the lake. Interesting. You know, I just can't help but to consider how much this area's landscape has changed over the years. From a prehistoric fight for survival to a peaceful park in tropical SoCal. Wow, I stumbled upon this little garden, the Richard Simon Garden, and honestly, if you blink, you'll pass it. And what I've read here is that the plants that are along this garden are actually native plants to California. These are the plants that were here 25,000 years ago. This little piece of garden is like stepping back into the past, because over the past 150 years, the Californians made this kind of landscape into a more tropical landscape, replacing a lot of the native plants like buckwheat and sage with more tropical plants like eucalyptus and palm, kind of creating it into the tropical paradise that it is today. So this piece of preserved garden is really cool to get to see. Well, I can appreciate some prehistoric plants, but I want to see more of that tacky tar. Wow, this stuff sure is sticky. You know, there are pockets of these tar deposits all around the park, and luckily the city has really done a great job to kind of contain the small amounts that are kind of pushing up through the ground, because this whole area has an oil field underneath it, which constantly produces the asphalt, which we call tar, and you might step in some if you're not careful. The next tar pit stop is Pit 91. Now, this pit is still an active dig site and still contains millions of fossils left to extract from the treacherous goo. From the viewing windows, we can see the progress as well as learn about the staff involved, their specialized tools, and the process it takes to undergo the formidable task of extracting these historic gems from the unrelenting tar. One thing that I've learned so far is that no matter how big or small, each pit holds its own sacred, prehistoric graveyard, like Pit 9 here. So this is Pit 9, and I wanted to show you Pit 9 because even though it appears to be small now, this was much larger when they were actually excavating here. Workers had dug down 35 feet to find over 10,000 fossils from this one pit. And in fact, they found 27 Columbian mammoth fossils from this small area. If you can believe it. Crazy. Our next pit stop is Project 23, which holds 23 large crates containing the most recent fossil finds. Millions of them. This patient museum staff is meticulously digging through the crates and are making new discoveries every day, reconstructing the prehistoric environment, all in effort to learn what LA was like long ago. I know I've learned a lot so far. Interesting. It's saying that this peaceful park now was actually quite perilous for animals that walked here 20,000 years ago. It's kind of like that predator-prey aspect where you had the predator after the prey. They both would encounter the tar pits and they oftentimes would both get stuck. Animals like dire wolves and other predators would feed off the remains of the stuck animals here, and even many of them died in the process. An animal like the Harlan ground sloth, who was huge and ferocious with razor-sharp claws that could defend itself from some of the biggest predators, couldn't get loose from the tar. Not a situation you want to be stuck in. The walk around the grounds of this outdoor museum is pleasant to say the least. The pathways that wind through the park allow you the option to view the pits in whichever order you choose, and each exhibit offers more information and another layer to the history here. For an in-depth guided option, the museum also offers tours for visitors. Finally, I'm headed up to see the museum's garden courtyard from the upper walk. I was told that the plants and the koa ponds here make it a nice spot to take a moment and reflect. Everything that we've got to check out here so far has been absolutely free, which is pretty amazing. However, for a more informative and hands-on experience, you can visit the Brea Tar Pits Museum. For a small donation, you can actually touch and get your hands on some fossils that they've pulled out of these pits. So amazing. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Destination LA, La Brea Tar Pits. I'm Kenny Barnwell, and I'll see you at our next destination. Dude, what the heck? Where is this? I mean, I didn't even touch. I wasn't even on aisle 9. That's crazy. This stuff is everywhere. Great. I think this jacket's ruined. Hope I don't ruin my britches.